Hello my friends, hope you're well. Today I'm on location in Wilton today, filming a brand new interview and a brand new podcast with Andy from the Courtyard Marketplace. Hello Andy.
Hi, Colin.
How are you?
I'm all right, thanks.
Good. For those who don't know you, don't know the shop, what would you say to those people? How would you kind of position yourself and articulate to those people who maybe don't know you?
Well, basically, we're a artisan food shop with a eco theme and a refill eco station or eco refill station. We support lots of small producers throughout the UK, and our emphasis is on quality, not quantity. It's just about sourcing nice products for our customers to enjoy, and that's what we love. We just love finding different products.
So you've been, we were talking a little bit before whilst I was setting up and such, and you've been established since 2016.
Yeah.
How did you get here? Because you weren't, from my understanding, you weren't here from 2016. So where did it kind of start?
Well, it started with my daughter, Wendy,
Okay.
and her husband. They decided they wanted to set up a cafe called the Courtyard Cafe. I was then made redundant and took on the farm shop element of the cafe. And that's really where the marketplace started, from a small beginnings in the cafe. And our first supplier at that point, who we deal with today, or still to date, 8 years on, is the Hawkshead Relish Company, who are based in the Lake District. They have been tremendously supportive of us right from day one, and without them we probably wouldn't exist today. They've supported us, they've helped us create what we have today. But even now, a lot of our emphasis on products still goes around that original stocking of the Hawkshead brand.
From that perspective, I mean, what was there like? Because obviously you're very artisan. Was that a very specific choice that you wanted to go down? Because I think when people look at farm shops, they maybe the wrong word is snobby, but they can be perceived that way, you know? And I think that actually, I think it's the value perspective and the perspective when it comes to thinking about the thought process behind the owner of the shop and how did you choose your stock? How does it, because I think it's a big deal, because to an extent you're sort of marrying the two brands and saying, well, like, I put my quality stamp on this, you know, especially with the reputation you now have.
Well, initially, we was going to go down the local route, because local is the thing. But it soon became apparent that Wiltshire is not a food capital, and the suppliers that we did approach weren't particularly interested in us because we were small fry. And that's why we approached Hawkshead, because we like their labelling, which is very simple and to the point, and the product just stands out. And then it's grown from there, really, is finding nice products from around the UK that fit the brief of good quality. They're going down the eco route. Great Taste Awards, that features a lot on a lot of our products, although it's not something that we specifically look out for. It just happens to be that a lot of our suppliers have won lots of awards, or the Great Taste Awards. So it's really grown from the Hawkshead side, but now we are far more than just a Hawkshead stockist. So now, fast forward to 2025, we do now have a lot more localish products. So we've got oil, the rapeseed oil from Shrewton, we've got local honey, we've got peanut butter, we've got a variety of things, but it could be Dorset, it could be Hampshire, Cornwall. So it's the whole spectrum, and we do try now to look at more local products, but it is still that thing of Wiltshire isn't a food capital. We're always on the lookout for something new, something different.
That aligns and works, I think, is from what I've gathered from our conversations previously, and fits into what else you offer.
Yeah, we won't put any old thing in. Yeah, we're not just going to be another supermarket stroke convenience store. You know, we think about what we put in. We're not just going to put in something just because it's got to meet lots of criteria. And customers ask us for certain things, and for the most part we listen. Again, if it fits our brief, we do put in things that customers ask for, and that's how we sort of grow our range, I suppose.
Would you say that, because obviously in a place like Wilton, it's very small and it's very community led, would you say that if you were in, say, somewhere bigger or a more, I guess in some ways like a external of a city, or like the location is where this question's going, what role would you say the location here plays in how successful or not successful potentially a shop or your shop is?
Well, we think it's massive, the location thing, because we've been in here 2.5 years now.
Okay.
And we do feel that we're becoming part of the community. A key thing for us is customer service, being there for our customers. We have customers that come in just for a chat. Yes, we want people to buy things, but we're there for people if they just want to come in just for a chat. You wouldn't get that in your bigger shops. You wouldn't get that in a city centre, and that's why we love this location so much. And a lot of our customers now are becoming friends. So it's a whole social element as well. You know, we're there. We like to think that we're there for our customers as much as anything, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's really key, and I think it's about, for me anyway, it's about understanding where you sit in your community potentially. I mean, a lot of what I've built my business on, mostly Salisbury focused when I lived there, but now I'm living in Wilton more. It's always about how can I, even not if there's a commercial benefit necessarily, but like how can I position myself as the go-to helper in what I do for the local area, right? So we've done Chalk Valley, for example, for 4 years now, if you count this year. Never made a penny off it, right? We've done a decent amount of the Salisbury events. Again, never made real there's a few commercial transactions in there, but like very, very few. If you look at the kind of event portfolio as a whole, 95%, 85% is like free. In that respect, I think it's about the passion, and I think like a lot of the marketing strategies that you could use is leveraging that community goodwill to an extent. And I mean, how do you feel about doing that? Because I think there is that kind of question mark in some ways as well, because like it could be perceived as a bit manipulative or a bit like you're leveraging the community goodwill. But also I think that's how a community will thrive. I think that's how a town or a village or a city will be seen by a larger group, and that kind of community effort. And it's very kind of buzzword, like the community is a buzzword in marketing at the moment, about how do you build community around your organization, around your shop, around your business. I mean, how does one do that, would you say?
I think for us, it's just about me and Wendy being us, and being open, being no frills, no sales gimmicks, just being us and ourselves, and I think that portrays a lot. And people do come in for the banter, people do thrive off of that, and people know that they can come in and not be bombarded with sales pitches. There's nothing devious about anything we do. It's all genuine.
For me, it's your intention with it, right? I think sometimes when people throw the word community authenticity around, it's not authentic to them what they're doing. What they're doing is seeing a trend and potentially jumping on it and be like, oh, I need to have community in my business, I need to be authentic, etc. I think for me, as someone who's been, I believe anyway, true to myself and true to authenticity when it comes to everything I've done since I established in 2018, I think, and sometimes to my detriment, right, as well, which I think is the key for like when you're being truly authentic, is actually, it's sometimes good for you, but also it can, for me personally, have a negative connotation because I'm 100% honesty policy. So, and sometimes I have been known to maybe say things in such a way that could ruffle some feathers, right? And I think, and it kind of leads on, I guess, to the question of, because everyone has a level of maybe a misunderstanding or burn a relationship, maybe not from their perspective, like they wanted that to happen, but that's the kind of nature of what ended up happening. How did you handle that? How do you deal with that, like personally, as either you personally or as a business? How do you sort of navigate that when it happens? Because I think it's natural in business, right?
Well, it is
sometimes,
unfortunately.
unfortunately.
I mean, I didn't even know community was a trend in that sense because we just do what we do. But you always know when if somebody isn't going to be receptive to how we are, we'll be pleasant. We'll ask them if they're looking for anything in particular, and then you just leave them to browse and to look in their own time, and then they either carry on and buy something or they go off on their way. But you can always pick up when people are not comfortable with that sort of thing, because not everybody is, and we understand that.
Do you think it's more of a like, okay, you're just not for us, or we're not for you kind of perspective then?
Possibly, but then some people just want to come into a shop, browse and get whatever they're after and be gone. They're not interested in having a conversation or passing the time of day, and that's fine because we're all different. And that's probably what makes it more interesting. But to be honest, we get very few people that are actually like that. We're getting to know the personalities of a lot of our customers. We know if they've maybe had some issues, and so we try to be caring. We remember these things, and it's because we want to. It's not because there's any sort of game plan that it's.
It's about being human and being like real, right? I think sometimes people could perceive it, or one could perceive it because of salespeople doing it to be fake, to warm the lead to then get the sale, right? And I think it comes back to that intention element, and I think for me anyway, it's what was your intention going into it, and did you have good intentions going into it and into that interaction, and then how does that knock-on effect, like if that knock-on effect is then positive, happy days. If it's then potentially negative, could you reflect on maybe how, or just take it as, okay, actually maybe they're not for us, in that respect. For me personally, and I have had that with clients, I've had that with ex-clients, I've had that with potential clients, etc. I mean, you obviously operated through COVID, which was going to be my next question about like how, and it's kind of a more of a diversification question related to like how do you, because you could look at it like what happens when something like COVID happens, or what happens when things aren't, as we were discussing when I was setting up, things aren't doing as well as you would want them to, right? We're always in a position where hopefully things are good, but we had room for more. And I think it's about the difference between two businesses will be the ones that go, okay, we can sort of see what's happening and we can see what's coming if we don't act. What have you done? Is there things you've like pivoted or adapted and now offer that I think would make you either unique or has allowed you to sort of weather those storms?
Yeah, obviously the pandemic was a very difficult period for everybody. It was very difficult for us being open, shut, but we did try to see positives. And during that period, we actually expanded. So we moved from one shop to another within our last environment. One of the biggest things that we done, we invested in a new website because we could see that we wasn't going to get a daily footfall, so we needed something to keep us out there, because we was frightened we was going to lose our little business that me and Wendy love. We love what we do. So hence we had the website built that then brought on our online shop. And during COVID, we did do lots of online orders, local deliveries, and it gave us a chance to still be out there helping the community, gave me something to do on a daily basis, and kept the shop ticking over for us to be able to hopefully move forward. It was always about trying to use that period as a stepping stone as such, not fall and be negative and then we've gone. So we were just trying to make our business, put longevity on the business in a difficult time, and we weathered it. You know, we managed to come through that. I think we're bigger, we're stronger now. We're in a better place for doing that, and now we have a nice website to go with the shop.
Yeah, I think sometimes as entrepreneurs we don't. I mean, I've worked on this the last couple of years. It's very like it's all down to me, right? One of the benefits, I guess, in some ways, but also one of the quote unquote curses, you could say, of entrepreneurship is my income's down to me, my output's down to me, my marketing's down to me, how well things are is down to me, how well things aren't going is down to me. And I think that sometimes people who maybe are used to a job or maybe aren't in the entrepreneurial space aren't 100% like aware of that necessarily. Like, I think we have to have, like, from a more personal like level, for me personally, I think you have to, when you choose your partner and stuff, like, you have to have someone who's really understanding in that respect as well. And I think that when it comes to having an outlet as well outside of work, something I've always struggled with is not working because I love what I do. So it can be like, I'm very fortunate and very lucky to do this full time and be able to support myself and so on from doing it. But also it's then harder to disconnect, if that makes sense. Like, for me personally, I mean, how do you disconnect personally from the shop? If you do.
For the most part, I don't, and Wendy would tell me off for that. But I do try to more and more now. But I do go home and I do the accounts. I do the marketing, but that's generally because I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. But I do know now that I've got to take time for myself, because if I don't do that, then I'll suffer, and then inevitably it will have a knock-on effect with the shop. But I will still, at the weekend, I will do things. I order it. It's just in my nature, but it's only because I enjoy what I do. You know, if it was a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't be doing that.
I think that's the difference, right? People look at maybe what business owners do, right? And they look at and they say, like, I wouldn't say you should work for someone who isn't yourself this hard, right? you shouldn't. In my view, it's a silly idea. But I think when you work for yourself and it's your baby, to use the cliche term, it's not even like you can help it, right? Like a lot of what my partner talks to me about as well is like, oh, stop thinking, get ideas. Because I get ideas at random times of night, right? It's actually whenever I relax, like then my brain goes into the creative side of like, oh, I've got this idea. This entire relaunch of the podcast came from one of those ideas. But I think that for me, I mean, we have would it be fair to say shared passion for wildlife, I guess? I mean, how did you sort of get started with that? You know, been very fortunate to see some of your work in the shop, and like, did you do that before, and then it sort of naturally became part of the shop? Like, was it then an idea to be like, okay, I've got this, let's see what happens in the shop?
Well, I've always loved photography. I've always taken photos. I've never classed myself as a photographer, and I probably would never do that because I don't think I am. But I do like taking nice photos. And then Wendy one day said, why don't I just turn some of my photographs into cards? And I sort of, not laugh, but I don't see my work as being, I'm too self-critical basically. But she said, no, let's do it. So we did. We turned a small selection into cards, and I've been really surprised at how well they've been received. I get people come in now specifically for my cards. I try now to put this into my social life where I'll go off and have a little photography session within the view of, they would make nice cards. So it has turned on its head in a way that I never thought possible, because I've never classed myself as creative or anything like that. I mean, now Wendy has decided to label herself creative director. Where it's come from, I don't know. It's not too far from the truth. That's how she is. So we'll give her that one. But she loves doing that. So and a lot of her creativity probably feeds down into me now. Where with the cards, I do think about what I'm taking pictures of. Oh, that would make a nice card. Or somebody asked me the other week to take a picture of one of the churches and turn. So again, it's that listening to customers and people do love them, and that's been the nice surprise. I've even been asked for my autograph twice, which Wendy thought was highly amusing. She thought they was being sarcastic, but they was actually being truthful. So 2 people I had to sign my cards because I mean, a lot of people, when I say, oh, those are my cards over there. Are they? You done those? And it's almost a disbelief that I've done them. But it's nice. It's nice for people to take them away, and it gives me a little buzz.
I also think it's a nice place to escape, you could say, to step away, to reflect on like where the shop is or like where the business is. And I think that's where you get those creative ideas, and that's why I think it's important. And I think, for me, I think a lot of it comes from having that permission myself to say, actually, I can step away. We were talking a bit as I was setting up as well about, having phases, right? At the moment, this week is very busy in the respect to it's podcast launch week. I'm doing a lot of podcasts, etc. But then next week, I'm back with clients again. That was deliberately pre-scheduled to be this way. But then I've got other weeks where there won't be a lot necessarily going on. There will just be, I have this edit to do. I'm waiting on approval, etc. So I think sometimes people look at the really busy weeks for a business owner and think, oh, he's going to burn out. Oh, he's going to do this. And I think for me, not to say that it comes to a place of care, of course, right? But I think for me, it's the personal balance has to be yours. I don't think it's a situation where you can be, where someone else can say whether you, unless they're really close to you and they can see the signs. But like even then, I think you have to have that permission and you need to sort of work that through yourself, in my view. And I think for me, I think having an outlet like wildlife, like photography, etc., especially if you don't do it as a job, is, and if you do, have a different set of expectations when you're doing it for fun, when you're not doing it professionally or commercially. And I think it just gives you that space, right? And I think it gives you that space to come up with new ideas. It gives you that space to actually like fuel the growth as well, like especially if you're growth minded. And for in the first couple of years of my business, I didn't look at it that way, and it's been interesting to see how my perspective has changed there. I mean, have you, from an overarching thought process in like the goal of where the shop was when you started in 2016 to now, like is it where you wanted it to be, like in the respect to like this was the vision and you've hit that vision, or not, and or has that vision sort of tweaked and changed?
I think our vision constantly moves as we go from one week to the next, to be honest. We don't set ourselves goals. Maybe we should. It's not all fun and games. I mean, when Wendy makes me laugh constantly, but it isn't all fun and games as much as we'd like it to be. I mean, cash flow is always a problem, you know, but this is a problem that all independent businesses struggle with.
I think it's harder for a stock related business, right? It's a struggle for every business potentially, yes, but it's easier for me to balance because I don't have to then buy stock to make money, right? I have to just focus on marketing more and then showing up and doing a good job, pretty much. So how do you, but I've always been curious how you balance cash and stock as a business.
For me, it's become a massive learning curve since we came into this shop. It's been massive, and I wasn't prepared for how big a problem it could be. But now, basically, we just have to, like everybody else, I suppose, watch what you spend. If somebody initially when we set this up, we had it nicely stocked, and as soon as we run out of 2 or 3 things, we'd be on it, restock. But the trouble is with the restocking, you always have minimum orders.
Yeah.
With every little supplier, there's always a minimum order.
Yeah.
So you would then make up another minimum order to get in some stock that we'd sold out of. I've now learned that that's not really the way forward. And basically, if we haven't got it, we haven't got it until we're in a position to reorder. So, and that's, most of our customers are fine with that. They'll wait until it's restocked, or they choose something else. But it is just about watching and trying not to spend it. We love putting new products in. That's one of our downfalls. Well, not downfalls, but when it's quiet, we sit here and we'll start looking for new producers, new suppliers, and we think, oh, that's great, that'll work. You know, that'd be nice. Our customers will love that. And then you put in new products, but the problem is you're in a quiet period, so there's no money coming in. If there's no money coming in, you've still got to pay your bills. The bills don't go away. You've still got to pay your rent. You've still got to pay for the stock that's on the shelf. Yeah. So now we have stepped away from doing that, and hopefully that is now going to transpire into us being a bit more on top of this cash flow issue. It's always going to crop up. I've realised that there's going to be peaks and troughs.
I think it's something you have to like that's one of the skills of being a business owner, in my view, right? Is that constant money management, that constant like aware of where you are, and then developing strategies to deal with either the surplus and then how to use it to grow, or actually having then getting to the point of a surplus where you're actually fine for 4 months or 6 months or so on, you know. And I think sometimes you have to make personal sacrifices yourself to get the money into the business there, because if you are wrongly or rightly potentially taking money out of the business, then you are potentially hurting the business's growth or its sustainability as a whole. But I mean, you've done quite a bit that has removed, like, is another revenue, a set of revenue streams as well, that I know you wanted to talk about today. So I mean, how did you sort of go about the hampers? How did you sort of work with Airbnbs and work with Piccolo down the street, etc.? I mean, did that sort of come as an idea? Like, how did that sort of go?
Yeah, the Piccolo thing, that came from Lou, the owner of Piccolo. In the past, they've given flowers and bottles of Prosecco to people that buy a new house, and she had this idea of us making up some sort of hamper bag. And that's what we do now. We make up a little hamper bag for all the people buying their new house. So they give them the keys, give them one of our bags, but within the bag is lots of little goodies that, because moving in is a stressful time, you don't want to be looking for a vase for flowers. You don't want to be looking for champagne flutes for your Prosecco. You're unboxing, you're getting stressed. So a lot of thought goes into what we put in our little bags. It's just things that they can nibble on, can have a drink, have a snack, sit down, have a cup of tea and a biscuit, just to see them through those couple of days. And it really works. We've had a lot of good feedback, and they love that little extra touch. Obviously, it's an extra touch by Piccolo, but for the benefit of us. On the Airbnb side, it's something we've wanted to do for a long time, but we had been struggling to find anybody that has Airbnbs. And then by chance, we heard about somebody called Host with Grace, another local business. We contacted Grace, she came in, loved the shop, and now we supply 2 of her properties with hampers and they're like a welcome hamper. So welcome the guests. Grace gives us a brief, gives us a budget, and we tailor it accordingly to the clients that she's got coming in. And that's the sort of thing that we want to build on. We've just done some hamper bags for somebody that was involved in the prom at Able Hands. And she wanted to thank the volunteers. And eventually she thought of us, because she had gone to Virginia Haywood, or looked at Virginia Haywood. Hampers are through the roof in price, and you don't really get a lot of choice as to what's in there. It's more packaging. She even looked at Fortnum and Mason, having just one big hamper, but again, you don't get an awful, it's more packaging. And she came to us, again, gave us a brief, gave us a budget, and the reaction has been brilliant. So it's that sort of thing that we're trying to build on, because hampers, we love doing it, particularly Wendy. She loves creating the hampers. She lets me have a go every now and again. I think I've still got some learning to do, but I'm getting there, I think. But
has it helped with the peaks and troughs of like cash flow, that side of things?
That's what we're hoping, because it's only this last couple of months I mean, one of the downsides is I'm now having to order more stock, but we are now changing some of the stock because of what we're doing for the Airbnbs. We're now introducing some new stock into the shop, so our customers are benefiting as well. So it's making us look for more nice products to complement what we already do. But we just want to promote hampers a lot more. Christmas is always the time for hampers. They always do very well, but hampers are not just for Christmas. Birthdays, a thank you, corporate gifts, anything like that. So we're just trying to put ourselves out there a bit more and let people know what we can offer. And everything is bespoke, everything is personal. We don't just have a hamper full of things that we like people to choose, to tailor it to whoever they're purchasing it for. If there's an allergy, we can accommodate. If they're vegetarian, if they don't like a certain product. So everything is tailored to the final consumer, and people do love that. They love to do that personal gift, and it means such a lot to the recipient.
I think it also shows, again, it goes back to that authenticity point that we were mentioning before, and I think that so much of businesses, especially now as maybe times are tough, I've heard that for my entire career, so I always take it with a pinch of salt, because it's perspective, isn't it? And it's kind of down to you. But I think for me, on that point, yes, the world is more turbulent, right? It's always been turbulent, but it's more turbulent now. And I think, doing things that are unique, that are custom, that are bespoke, that come from a level of love and authenticity, will be the reason why you win. And I think, and I'm aware of time, so I think let's wrap up soon. But those who are localized to Wilton, they may have noticed that you've had, I think, 3 windows by Michelle on your window.
Yeah, this is this is the 3rd one. Yeah.
How was that how did that process begin? And do you feel that it really helps you stand out? Because as a shop, one of your shop front, quite literally, is one of the main reasons why someone will come through the door off the street from a footfall point of view. Of course, you can do things like market online, have a good website, have good social media presence to bring people to the shop. But I would say, well, let me ask you, is a lot of it footfall? And then if so, does that have a knock-on effect to having a more aesthetically pleasing window, you could say?
Well, to be honest, the window we was totally oblivious of originally as a tool.
Okay.
And it just come out of, I don't know what it came out of now, but we had this brainwave of doing something with the window, because our window is very difficult to make look nice because it's an old building and it's quite a deep recess, and it's the sun beats down on it, so it's very difficult to, because Wendy again loves to create a nice window display, but it needed to be more than that. So we approached Michelle and we came up with the idea of just having a catchy slogan, just something quick, something that wasn't too intense. And our first one just said, "Say cheese." That's all it said. It said, "Say cheese," and then there was a little comedy block of cheese underneath that. And our cheese sales quadrupled in 2 to 3 months, because so many people didn't realise we sold cheese. And that's how it started. So the next one was Christmas. We had hampers on there, and now we've got honey. So we just try and think what would work best, but it's more trying to make it tongue in cheek, I suppose, and just have something nice on the window. We're just trying to think what can go on there next. But it's a lot of it. It's about creating interest in the shop, but it's also about fun. Yeah, I mean, which is what we try to do. We want to introduce the fun aspect, to make it a nice experience to come into the shop and not just be a cold environment. We want to portray our personality. We try and portray our personality perhaps within the window, on our website. We try and portray us and not like a corporate brand. Yeah. And that has sort of shone through, and in particular recently, where we've won the Muddy Stilettos award for best farm shop / deli in Wiltshire. That was a total surprise. We're chuffed to bits. We didn't expect it, but the one thing that we did notice with this one was how much the people of Wilton and beyond got behind us. You know, we was getting people come through the door. We voted for you. How well are you doing? And then we've had so many lovely comments on the back of us winning. Customers bringing us in little gifts and cards, and it just makes this whole process worthwhile. There's no monetary gain in that as such, but it is just a lovely achievement for Wendy and I after 9 years of basically, yeah. It's nice to finally get some recognition, but we do get a lot of recognition from a lot of customers. And
I think again, it kind of builds on that world of community building. It builds on the world of authenticity. It builds on the world of that kind of tongue-in-cheek element that we were talking about with the window. And I think so much of business community, it can be quite salesy, can be quite, in that respect. And hopefully with what I do with my content, it isn't just corporate. Yes, I can serve corporates. Yes, I can serve small business. Yes, I can serve medium-sized business. But hopefully it's perceived in such a way where it's not like just corporate. And I think for me, that's the key to any business that maybe you're listening to this, who's maybe on harder times, you could say, is, get your own personal brand or get your own personality across. And I think being more people-led, because one of the USPs you could say of like a small business is the fact that we are people and that we are people-driven in the respect to like we will go the extra mile for our clients, we will go the extra mile for our customers. But then also there will be opportunities like the awards where people can kind of give back in some ways that's not necessarily monetarily, or like giving this podcast love or like share, there's things that maybe now is not the right time for a commercial transaction or for me to pop in to buy something from you or whatever, for whatever reason, right? But actually there's other things that the community can do to support you outside of that. And I think that's really nice. And I think that's something which hopefully more businesses will try and do. But thank you ever so much, Andy, for the time and coming on and doing this, because I know it's not easy to necessarily put yourself out there like this or have a on-camera conversation, so to speak. So
no, well, thank you, Carlton. It's been better than I anticipated.
Yay! That's good.
Very much.
No, you're very welcome.
It is appreciated.
And if you did enjoy this interview and you would like to see more like it, then make sure to be subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you very, very soon.